Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Nicholas County Board of Education regular meeting, Thursday, January 9th. And at this time, please stand for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Please join the board with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda.
The only thing I need to change on the agenda, we need to have an executive session after 12C. That's after we announce the future meeting dates and just before we recess for our afternoon session on personnel. That's all I have.
Okay. Approve the minutes of the meetings held on December 16th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes, or are there any corrections?
We have to change those times of the meetings, or is?
No, you mean because of the snow?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I've read the minutes and I see no problem. If no one else has any additions or corrections, I move to accept.
Okay, Mr. Moose makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Berry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion unanimous. Superintendent's information updates.
Before I go into my announcements, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Alpha Coal. Alpha Coal donated a load of coal for Mount Nebo Elementary School. Mount Nebo is one of the few elementary schools or schools in the state of West Virginia still uses coal. And so Alpha made a donation to us, and Tony Mays Trucking delivered that, and so we're very thankful to both of those groups for helping us out. We'll talk about snow routes here in a second, but before I get to that, I want to go through the other parts of my discussion. These are just things kind of for the board to be thinking about. I know we are probably 2.5 years out from getting the pre-K-8 school ready to go, but even with that being said, I think we need to start thinking about our plans for that house up on that property and the hangar up on that property, on how we may use that in the future. It's obviously a decision that doesn't have to be made right now, but it is something we need to start thinking about how we use it. We do have some ideas on how we might want to consider that, but we really want the board to think about that. Maybe sometime in a work session, have a discussion on how we could use those two buildings. We're probably going to have more maintenance people in that area when that building is finished, because it's a large piece of property. It's going to need a lot of taking care of. And so we got some thoughts on how it may be used, but just down the road, that's something I want to consider talking about. Next thing is I am going to invite ZMM to come and give us an update on our two projects. I am hearing I'm seeing actually good things at the Glade Creek site. I was at a meeting yesterday and hadn't been there in about a month. And when we went into the building to have our meeting, I looked over and there was a whole new wing built on it. One of the elementary wings is already pretty much up to the height it needs to be. And We were told yesterday that after the weather breaks, they plan on having 60 masons there to assign a team to each of the wings to start bringing that building up. So it was real exciting to hear. And so I would like for CMM to come and give us an update. And I do know they're doing a lot of demo work at the Cherry River site too. So I just thought it might be a good idea to bring them in sometime in February or so and give us an update on how the projects are going. School calendar, I'm working on school calendar now. I really have my first draft ready to go. We are going to put that out on the site, on our website, and in a survey for people to be able to make comments. And we always get the same kind of comments, and that's fine on we're starting too early, or we're starting too late, or whatever it happens to be. But it's going to be very, very similar to what our calendar is this year. And our calendar this year, after people got into it, they really liked it. They really liked the semester ending by Christmas. I mean, just imagine now, if first semester was still dragging out there until the middle of January, and the kids have been out of school for 3 weeks, and then you expect them to come in and take finals or whatever and start over fresh. So they really like that part of it. And the one part that I think people may want to have some input into is our spring break next year, because Easter is very early next year. It's in March. And so that's a little early to have spring break. I mean, what are you going to do? Do this, probably. So I'm looking at maybe having spring break a little later in April and still giving people off the Good Friday before Easter, so they have a long weekend then we have school week, and then we have our spring break. But you'll see that on our website real soon, and people can make comments. We'll have it up on the website from the 17th to the 24th, and then we have 2 hearings on February 3rd and February 24th. At February 24th meeting, the board would vote on the calendar. No, they would vote on the first board meeting in March, and then we have till May to get it submitted to the state. But that includes our snow packet information from all of our schools. We've got to get that from them. So there's a lot to do with the school calendar, but we're moving along with that. The final thing is, as of today, this is our 8th day we've missed. So we're allowed 10. So that's pretty simple. We have 2 days left, and tomorrow doesn't look good. So it's very possible that starting next week we'll be down to 1 day. And if we exceed those days, then we have to start making up days. And the first day that we'd have to make up is May 28th. Our last day for school is scheduled May 27th, so it's just the OS days are the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and then we get into and then June 2nd. If you use 4 more days, you got to go to June. That's one of the reasons I like to start school a little earlier than a lot of people like to start, because it allows you to make sure, you all know that when Memorial Day's over and graduation's over, most people are done, employees and students and parents. And so to extend it into June is just, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but by law, we're required to offer 180 days of instruction. So that's kind of where we are. So when people complain about us starting, you're starting all the way, and kids starting back in the middle of August, we didn't start after Labor Day. Well, that may be true, but we have to do 180 days. And so whenever we start, we've got to get the 180 days in. So we're working on, Mrs. Weitzel and I met with our bus drivers back on Friday before the weather hit. January 2nd, I think was the day, or 3rd. We met with the drivers and started working on these snow routes, which you all have a copy of. It's not something the board has to approve. I just want the board to be aware of what we're trying to accomplish here. And it's still a work in progress, and there will be hiccups along the way. They've had snow routes for years, but they said they've never used them. So we have a lot of new drivers, so we sat down in this room and we started working with them and had them to write up where they would be able to drive. And a snow route, the purpose of a snow route is if you have a day where the main roads are totally clear and it's not 10 degrees below zero, and you can have school if you can get to the side roads, we would be able to have school because we would just simply run the main roads. And the drivers have been asked to put on their list, which you all have a copy of, where those stops would be, where they pick up kids. We have 3 or 4 drivers that says their run will be canceled altogether. Well, we're working with those people to try to find if there's something they could do on their run to be available, because parents may be able to get their kids to a certain location along the route. So we're still working on that. This would not go into effect until Monday, because we need to have time, maybe not even Tuesday, because we need to get these on our website so people can see them and understand them. And we'd really like to give a handout of them to the kids, so we can't do that, obviously, this week probably. So we'll see when we start, our intention is to try to start on Monday, and I know there'll be a lot of talk, they'll say, oh, this is crazy, this, that, and the other. It's also crazy going to school in the middle of June, too. So we're trying to have school as much as we can and in a safe environment. We're not gonna put kids out on the road on days like today, we have snow routes, we're not having school today, or probably tomorrow. But there are days, you all seen them, living in Licks County my whole life, where you call school off and by noon, 1 o'clock, the roads are clear, and it's warmed up to 30 degrees, and the coaches want to practice and all this kind of stuff. Whereas if we ran our buses 3 hours late, we might be able to get those kids in on snow routes and save us a day of school. So that's the purpose of them. You have a copy of them. We'll get those out on the site hopefully before the end of the weekend so people can see what they look like. Dawn is working with us, trying to help us with any of these routes with some of these drivers, and I asked her to come in this morning in case you guys had any questions at all. She knows more about the routes than anybody else in this room, maybe Chris does, but Dawn has been kind of the go-to person with transportation lately, so if you have any questions, she's here to answer them, and if not, that's all I have at this time.
Excuse me, where it says cancel, does that mean they cannot, I mean, they're just not gonna run that?
Yeah, there's nowhere for them to run. And those are the ones we're working with now to try to find, and we did have a couple people changed. Bus 129 and Bus 149 and Bus 133 all have made little changes to where they can do part of their route and be available for parents that can get out. We've still got a couple we haven't got a chance to talk to yet.
The only one I haven't gotten to talk to is Bus 143,
And who is that?
Jennifer Jenkins.
Jennifer Jenkins. Okay.
Where's that bus run?
I'm outbound in Nebo, Mount Lookout Way.
Terrence, there was some talk, and based upon what you're saying on the snow days, I think you clarified it, but I was going to ask the question anyway.
Sure.
If the state declares an emergency, it still counts toward our days, or if a state of emergency, does that give you an extra day?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends what mood you're in. But it's just like today being a day of mourning. When President Bush died, they called it a National Day of Mourning, and the governor called schools off, and we didn't have to count that day. But this time, for some reason, they chose not to call it a National Day of Mourning. We had to call school off anyway, and so we have to make that day out. But if they say have a state of emergency, say you cannot be on the roads, then a lot of times they'll give you that day to work with. But their attitude is, we've given you 10 days already. We don't want to give you any more than 10 days. And that's kind of where we are with that. But most of the time, we have to make that.
Okay, the one thing I would suggest is when you put that calendar out for review to the public, give them kind of an overview of, some people don't understand. I was on that calendar committee for years, so I know a little bit about it, but they don't understand you only have so long once you start, you know.
Yeah.
If you could give them a little preview or overview.
I will. And we also provided them a summary of exactly how the calendar works. But I will. Like some people say, why don't you take off school for President's Day? We used to have it off. When I was in school 100 years ago, we was off for Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday. And now we don't get off either one or President's Day, but we have Martin Luther King Day. And that is by law. That's not something we choose to do. So you're right, Mr. Prime. I will put a little bit of clarity into that explanation.
Okay, do we have any delegations?
No, sir.
Thank you. Action items. Discussion with possible action on approving the PEIA resolution.
We have Brandon and Jason to talk to us about that.
Do you guys want me to come up here to the?
Sure.
Absolutely. Speak nice and loud and smile for the camera.
The camera, what a great addition. I have a resolution we've taken to all county boards of education that we've been able to get to so far. And I think we're over 40 at this point, maybe more. Our office has been closed like school has. Try not to lick my fingers and touch it. And to Mr. Ferguson's point about making up snow days, At our office at AFT, we get this question every day. And 18545 basically says the state superintendent makes that call, as Mr. Beam was saying. So during the water crisis in Charleston a few years ago, those schools did not have to make up those days. So unless it's in a long extending circumstance, as Mr. Beam says, they want 180 separate days of instruction. What we're trying to do at AFT and WVEA is try to get to every county board of education and go over, and I would call it a PEIA crisis at this point. And if you haven't heard, the AFT and the WVEA are looking at merging. That could be happening in March. There'll be a vote in March to merge the two organizations. So we're kind of dividing and conquering, trying to hit every board of education. And what we're trying to do is take to the legislature that all 55 boards of education are in support of our legislature helping us with PEIA. I don't have to tell you guys, certainly, that it's hard enough to attract highly qualified certified teachers. It's hard to find service personnel. It's hard to find a substitute. And when our legislature touts hundreds of millions of dollars of surplus money, but then again, puts all the PEIA problems on the backs of employees, it makes it even harder to find employees. Used to be the two major benefits of being an education employee. It was never the money, but your benefits were good and you had a lot of respect. And what we've seen happen is the respect's eroding away, and now our benefits are eroding away. So it's making it harder and harder for us to find qualified people for all positions. When I started teaching in Nicholas County in 2003, everyone told me you have to sub a couple of years to get a job, and now the joke I make is if you drive by the board office, they'll throw you an application through the window. So it's hard to find people. It's hard to keep bus routes running if someone calls off, and this PEIA problem that we're having with the increase of insurance is only going to make it worse for you as a board and superintendent and personnel director. I can read this to you if you want me to. I'm happy to. It's the resolution that we're taking to every county, or I can give you a second and let you read it. You're the boss, whatever you guys want me to do.
We had this in our packet,
Yeah.
so I'm sure everyone here, I read it personally.
Can I do it for the camera? Right, for TV show.
Sure, I'm just saying, so the public can hear too.
What's the main problem, Brandon, with it's PEIA not being funded
That's a great
by the
question.
government,
So-
like they're supposed to?
That's correct. So what happened was, there was a framework, PEIA was supposed to be an 80% share the state would pay, or county, then 20% the employee would pay, but that was a framework, it wasn't set in stone. 2 years ago, the legislature passed it must be 80 and it must be 20. So that sounds good, but what the problem is, every time the state puts $1 in, the employee has to match $20. So we can't just say, give us more money, because it's gonna cost employees more money. They gotta pick up the 20%. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we need that law fixed first. The 80-20 cost share sounds great, but we want it to be more of a framework instead of a hard line. Because as you know about healthcare, it's going way up. We basically have a $100 million shortfall in PEIA. We're $100 million off. So the solution for PEIA to fix that is county employees' premiums going up 14%. Local city municipalities like fire stations, police, city employees going up 16%. Retirees are going to go up 12% and haven't had a cost of living ever adjustment. Usually the retirees have been shielded on a lot of these premium increases, but they're coming after them this time. Out-of-pocket expenses are going up 40%. If your spouse has PEIA, that's going from $147 a month to $350 a month. I mean, we're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars that is going to be coming out of employees' pocketbooks to pay for health insurance if this passes as is. And our frustration, Mr. Moose, is not with the PEI Finance Board. They're kind of like a school board. You guys are given a pot of money and say, make it work. And that's all the money you have. And that's what's happened with the PEI Finance Board. The legislature says, here's your pot of money, make it work. So they have to go through and figure out where to cut. What needs to happen is we need more money in that law fix to say it doesn't have to be an exact 80-20 cost share. Because if you think back to when the strike first happened, the major thing was not pay, it was PEIA. Governor Justice promised, as he was governor, we would not see a single PEIA increase. And here we are 2 years in a row with PEIA increases, looking at even more in the future. So we're just hoping that Governor-elect Morrisey will pick up the ball where it's been dropped and try to help us here. I mean, the attacks on public education are nonstop. As you guys know, the Hope Scholarship is killing us as a public schools. You know, you're getting paid to keep your kid at home, and a lot of parents are taking advantage of that. And I guess while I'm on a roll, I'll just keep rolling. I mean, our local politicians haven't helped us. They keep voting and voting to hurt our public schools. And PEIA is one of them, and the Hope Scholarship's another, and Patrick Morrisey, as governor-elect, says he wants to make the Hope Scholarship even more open to anything. I mean, you can use your Hope Scholarship to get piano lessons right now. That's ridiculous. That's not education. So, we're hoping to stay on point. If we don't get PEIA fixed, the amount of employees that won't go into education or stay there is going to be even worse than it is now.
Raymond, what other employees besides the education system are in PEIA?
So, like your state employees are, most city municipalities elect to go into PEIA. They don't have to, but they do. And of course, all your retirees.
State troopers.
Yeah, your state troopers. It's basically every public employee.
Yeah.
And the solution you hear a lot is let's privatize it. But it's pretty much already privatized.
State university.
Yeah, and with state universities, WVU every year tries to get out of it and basically get into WVU healthcare because they have their own hospital already. But if WVU would lose, that's a whole chunk of employees that would leave, and then it would be way more expensive for everybody again. So, but it's all county, state, and then a lot of city municipalities who are in PEIA.
Is your experience with those entities that they are also lobbying the state or have some type of resolution that they're going to go forward, or do you know? You don't have to.
So what I do know is, like Jason mentioned, the troopers, they're represented by CWA, so they are on board. The city municipalities are represented by the AFL-CIO union, yes. So I don't know if they're going and writing resolutions or proposing them, but they are lobbying their legislators.
Will their premiums go up as well?
Correct. Yeah.
All those entities will have to
All
pay.
of them. 14 for the county employees, 16 for the local city, and 12% for the retirees.
We need to publish those legislators who are in favor of that, so that everybody knows.
And that could be corrected this legislative session. We keep hearing we have extra money. We have all these surpluses, but we don't see it come back. We need help.
Is there a proposed bill?
So I don't know of a proposed bill at this point. They did do committee selections yesterday. The Education Committee and the House stayed the same.
How about the Senate?
I think it's gonna be Amy Grady.
She's the same then?
Yeah. And she's a teacher in Mason County.
Brandon, what did you say the percentage was for retirees again?
12% increase.
And, you know, you guys aren't going to be, they're not going to get, the retirees are ready, so that's going to be my mom and dad's in the same boat. You guys retired?
I didn't get the percentage on the normal worker.
So the county employees, like the school boards, is 14%.
14.
And then keep in mind too, several employees whose spouse, basically if your spouse can get insurance, some insurances are not very good or are super expensive, but if your spouse is offered insurance, but they still take PEIA through you, it's gonna be $350 a month to have that spouse on your PEIA insurance.
Well, should the states not putting their share in? Is that the way it works?
They put in their 80%, but the problem, here's what's happening.
How are we $100 million in the hole?
The increases have gone up. As you know, healthcare is what, 7, 8, 10%.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And they're not filling in that 7, 8, 10%. There's no rainy day fund for PEI. This is your pot of money. It's what it's been the last 5 years. Do the best you can. Then you have these drugs like Ozempic, which you can now get, and a lot of people are using and taking good advantage, you know, getting healthier, but that's a super expensive drug that we never accounted for with PEIA. You know, an employee may be paying their deductible out of pocket, but that drug costs thousands of dollars.
And I know most insurance systems are first of the year going away from covering that. And that's a great debate in itself, like you said, because it does help you healthier if you lose the weight. So you got that, should keep healthcare costs down. But the cost of the drug is so expensive. But I do know that a lot of them are not going to start covering now. I don't know about PEIA, but I know a lot of them is not going to cover.
That's correct. It became, I guess, quote unquote, the miracle drug. So it first came out for diabetes and things, and now it's a weight loss, which gets you healthier. I mean, the healthier you are, the more employees you have at work every day. And it's what we're ultimately looking for. But this resolution basically says PEIA is going up a lot, and our employees are having to, cover the cost. And we're just looking for county boards to say, please help our employees, because it's hard enough to find our employees the way it is. That's pretty much the gist of this.
Have you had any counties that did not adopt the resolution?
I have not had any counties. Jason, do you know of any counties that have?
I had one that had a board member that was missing, so they waited a couple days until they could get in touch with them. But so far, every board that we presented to has signed that I know of. I don't know if any of us rejected.
We haven't got to all 55. Like I said, this is an AFT and WVEA initiative. It's not just one or the other.
Hasn't that also increased the amount the employee has to pay for doctor's visit and so forth?
Correct.
All those are increased?
Yeah, 40% out-of-pocket increases, whether it be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 drugs, deductibles, every out-of-pocket.
40% straight across.
Basically 40%. And what they do, what's frustrating is, and I'm sure you guys have went to the doctor, they say, you need this prescription, and your insurance company says, no, you don't need that, you need this instead. And, we want the medical professionals telling us what we need to take as medication, not insurance companies. That's why they're doctors, they prescribe what you need, but, those drugs will jump to a tier 2 instead of a $25 deductible, maybe a $75 deductible. And the sad thing is, if you do any medical research, if you went in and bought some of these drugs out of pocket with cash, you would save a lot of money, but then the pharmacy's not allowed to tell you, hey, just pay cash for this, it's a lot cheaper. So, it's a big problem. It's a problem everywhere, but, Mr. Moose, you were a teacher for a long time. You know how many years you went without a pay raise because they said we're going to give you better benefits, and now we're losing those benefits.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we always get that.
But what we would like from the AFT and WVA is for all 55 county boards to sign on and say, we need help with PEIA, our employee shortage, this isn't going to help it, and basically we're going to take these to the governor, the House, and the Senate and say, everyone's on board, we need some help. That's pretty much what we're looking for.
What was the date that the AFT and WBEA are going to merge?
We're looking in March, as a vote in March, and I don't know that, it's late March, right, Jason?
I don't know if they've set a specific date, but it is in March.
Well, that's the smartest move you've ever made.
That's what the strike has taught us is we can't fight each other and represent our employees the best when the legislature's out to get us every single day. We can't have fights on everything. We have to work.
This resolution page is also running with a joint petition from WBA and AFT that we're just trying to get all employees, not just school employees, but all state employees and everybody to sign. Right now, I think we have close to 10,000 signatures. Does that sound right, Brandon?
Yeah.
So it's running joint with that as well. So if you see a petition out there, you feel free to sign it. And it's a joint effort with the two organizations, and we kind of pump these both out at the same time.
Well, healthcare cost is a major issue. I guess the other side of the coin, just so it's my understanding, whatever, and I think I'm right on it. PEIA and their financial, you're right, they do go to each of these medical systems and try to negotiate rates. And what's happening now, they continue to negotiate those rates where some of your medical providers are not going to cover PEIA because they've got them down. We only, a medical system only gets, say, 30% of Medicaid patients or Medicare. They lose money on those patients. PEIA is getting to the position where the healthcare system's starting to lose money on those. And so the PIA is negotiating with those healthcare providers, but healthcare across the nation is an issue. But you're right, I don't have a problem at all with what you're saying, who pays for it? That's what always comes back, and basically what you're saying is with the salaries and the competitiveness of trying to get your teachers and stuff, we can't afford to continue to erode away at their benefits that they've been promised. I mean, I get that, totally. I'm just letting you know, it's a big issue
There's a lot of
with the
people
medical
upset.
community itself.
Yeah, I think Kroger at one point was gonna leave PEIA for pharmacy, and then they renegotiated.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, actually WVU healthcare system was going to go away, and then they renegotiated at the very end and stuff, so. Yeah, it's just a question where the money comes from. You know, it's just the bottom line, you gotta follow the money, whether it's gonna be the federal or the state or the employees or sharing, everybody sharing part of it, but medical costs are really, I'll say this, it's kind of ironic. I actually serve on the WVU Medicine System Board, and it's kind of ironic, one of their major cost issues is their own employee health care costs. So, I mean, so they're experiencing themselves with their own employees, and they're in the medical business. But it's one of their major issues is how to keep their employee health care costs contained.
And I think that, Mr. Ferguson, I think that's why they were exploring options of leaving PEIA at one point.
Yeah, they did.
But,
Okay.
just one last thing, just, you know, I would say 50 counties in this state, the main employer is the County Board of Education. If it's not, it's a Walmart, and if it's not that, it's WVU or CAMC Healthcare.
Okay, we'll vote on this here in just a minute.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
And last thing is, the reason I'm here today, I'm now the AFT rep for Nicholas County again. I know y'all were hoping you got rid of me, but I'm sorry. It's good to be home.
Welcome.
Okay, action item 7B, discussion with possible action on approving the contract with Greenbrier Valley Theater for performance workshop on February 6, 2025 at Mount Nebo Elementary School.
And I've asked Andrew McNeely, the principal, to come and talk to us a bit about this.
Not that.
Absolutely.
Greenbrier Valley Theater reached out to us. They're on tour. It's an educational touring initiative that they have right now. It is free to anybody that wanted them to come to their school with the help of the U.S. Department of Education. It is based on the history of Alderson with the lion who lived in Alderson with Keep Your Lion on a Leash. And so they will have two performers come and do that performance for our kids. It's a 30-minute performance, and then they will do 2 workshops with our kids, a K2 workshop and then a 3-5 workshop. Let me get there here, I have the workshops. The K2 workshop that they're going to be doing is a dramatic adventures exploring creative storytelling. It's based on ELA. Students will explore language and emotion recognition through the body. That's for all K2 students. It's a 45-minute workshop in each of the classrooms. And then the 3-5 is building a story and robots. Students will explore the components that make up a story and create their own stories in groups. And again, that's 45 minutes in each class as well in the 3-5 classrooms.
Will those be simultaneous? Or are they?
No, they'll go in each classroom, just one
Also,
One at a
they'll
time.
rotate through.
Yeah, one at a time. And so we're just asking that we're able to do that. It'll be February 6th.
Okay, thank you.
There's also
Sorry,
math,
any
math,
questions?
science, social, emotional learning, listed there as well.
Yes, right now.
How are
I-
you gonna do all that?
Well, it's just those two workshops that I requested, the English ones.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is because the kids need a little more help after looking at their scores and in the data with those particular components with their writing. And so that's why I chose those two workshops.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, action item C, discussion with possible action on approving the MOU with Smile West Virginia, the mobile dentist.
They presented the last board meeting, I think it was.
Right.
There was some question about that, what the insurance covered and what it didn't, or,
Sorry.
and they had probably represented the fact that they would cover it all.
They bill your insurance, what the insurance paid. The
Okay.
family wouldn't get a bill for it.
I got a clarification on that, so, it says the only time a parent would pay is if a child has no insurance at all and they would be, there would be no services done without the parent's understanding of what would be done and the cost is based on Medicaid, so it's much lower than any private practice. And Candem or WVU school have been, anyway, let's see. The underinsured child can receive donated care, which consists of cleaning, exam, and fluoride treatment completely, free to the child and parents. So, if they need fillings, there could be a fee, but everything's up front, and they tell them ahead of time.
They don't just do
Yeah,
it.
and I think it's a good program, I looked at that and so too. I think the issue was, as much as that's not what they portrayed when they first gave us the speech, they said that there wouldn't be any cost. And that was more the issue. I think they did that in error.
I don't
But
think
the
they did
program
what was
itself-
in the MOU.
But the program itself, you know, it's still a good program, but it just, they weren't, they were incorrect on that statement. As much as anything.
Yeah, we all had questions about that once we saw it.
Also says, when children in need without insurance, public aid, or the ability to self-pay receive grant funding. So there's grant funding available if they're eligible, apparently, unless I've misinterpreted.
Well, as long as they have full disclosure with the parents and the child before they do the service of who's gonna pay for it, I think it's still a good program, because most of the time it's gonna be paid for either through the Medicaid or through their own private insurance or whatever, but there could be times that they could be charged, as long as they have, you know, I mean, I still think it's a good program.
Yeah, definitely beneficial.
Okay, action item D, discussion with possible action on approving the MOU with Richwood Community Center for basketball, and we did not receive that.
So we need to pull that off the agenda.
Was it submitted to you?
Scott and I talked about that because we had created the original MOU. So I created another one and gave to Scott to see what he thought about that. And then he was gonna take it to them and see if, they would approve that.
I just got that back from them via email, yesterday. They're good with, they were good with what Christian wrote up. That the what you wrote up, other than, and what they were good with it. You road mapped that from the agreement with St. Luke's.
Right.
And at one point in there, it refers to the upstairs.
Oh, okay.
There's no upstairs. That'd be the wrong way. they had no hangups.
Christian,
You were gonna check and see if FEMA would pay for that, I believe.
I talked to, our person at the EMD, and I sent him the information that he requested, and then he wanted, to know some dates from Scott and some reasoning why that would be needed, like what the time conflicts were. And so we sent that to him, and he was gonna send it up, and he said, you know, that they might be favorable in covering that. He didn't have an answer back yet. But I kind of feel like you guys indicated that you might approve that anyway. I mean, I don't think we're gonna have a concrete answer back from FEMA. So, I mean, I think if you want to approve it, just go with, it's possible that it will be reimbursed, but I can't say that yet for sure. But,
Christian, what was gonna be the cost of the most,
I think
the
it's
highest cost
The
possible?
way it was,
$560.
yeah, the way it was written up was for 7 days.
$40 an hour.
The way it was written up was 7 days for 2 hours, $40 an hour, is $560 total. And again, there were 7 specific dates that there were, but some of the dates have passed already, some of them were this week. Some of those dates will now change, because there'll be a game that was supposed to be this week that's now moved to 2 weeks from now or whenever it's rescheduled, a middle school game or whatever. But it would not exceed, it was written up to not exceed 7 days.
Yeah, I don't,
So
I
that they
think we
can
all
move the
agree.
dates around, move the dates around, as needed with snow.
Can you send us a copy of that you sent? Can you send?
Yeah, well, I have it right here, I can email it to you, but this has the dates on it that he's saying are not accurate right now anyway, so we wouldn't want to sign this one, but
Okay, let us read that real quick, if you don't care.
like I said, honestly, we just, I know that.
The actual dates, like I said, are obviously with snow extremely fluid. It could be that there's a
So
day,
just to say that there was nothing that would cost, so we.
1 week that becomes a day another week.
And then I think on the next page.
Better
we're going to
way.
have-
Well, I mean, you know, like one of the days
So
was
those dates could be different.
actually gonna be Wednesday, because we were gonna hope to do this Monday and have one of the days be this Wednesday, but then we didn't have practice this Wednesday anyway because of
But
snow.
it's,
so-
everything else in there is the same as.
But there was a middle school game
everything's
that
where
day that'll
we
now be
use
rescheduled
other
for later in the
facilities.
season, or may or may not.
I think we can approve
A day
it,
like
like maximum of 7 days, $560.
Should we
Approve it that
have
way,
a
and the dates change and change.
If they approve, so more people can see what it actually.
Yeah, that's fine, and I don't know, when will you know the new dates? It says in here
I
the
won't,
dates are
I mean,
subject
the
to
dates
change.
just probably just need to be left as that they're fluid dates, because I could tell you a due date, because they rescheduled middle school games for next Thursday, but then it could snow out next Thursday, and that could become Friday after, you know, like it's, like one day it was this Wednesday, it was a middle school game supposed to happen this Wednesday, of course, the board meeting was supposed to be Monday, the snow delayed that, but then the game got canceled, but then so did practice anyway, and so that Wednesday middle school game now will be rescheduled sometime later in the
And
season.
there was one for today.
I think we could approve it for 14 hours. 14 hours at $40 an hour. That's.
And I'm just telling,
Approve it
tell the
that
coach
way.
as the days go
That way you don't have
around,
to-
just to make sure he doesn't
We'll
exceed.
approve 14 hours
You know,
at $40 an hour.
Yeah, and I'm just, like I said, tell the coach and have him keep track and email me every time he, or text me every time he uses it, and I'll keep track of that we don't exceed the 7 days. And it may end up being with cancellations, that it may not even be 7 days. One of the days they may reschedule a home game on a day that the boys basketball team's on an away game,
Right,
and then that day just doesn't get used at all, so it may not even be 7.
okay.
At this point, because now it looks like, a whole week of lost games, potentially more later in the season, it may be
It's the same.
game,
one,
game,
it's
game,
just
game,
a-
game, and they may line up a little more, so now.
Well,
Yes.
and it states in here that dates could change due to rescheduling of games, so it
The
really
only
doesn't
thing that's
matter that
different on
those
that
dates
is the
are on.
$40.
From the one, the
Yeah.
only thing she changed essentially in the agreement was where it said 0 before, you changed it to say,
$40 up to a maximum of $560.
Right.
And the dates, it does say in there that the dates are subject to change, so I think it's okay, probably do.
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
Let's schedule the community center also, you gotta.
Yeah, and then that's the other
It may
thing
not
too,
work
like,
with their schedule.
like their schedule, they have bitty basketball going on and potentially other events that, you know, I don't even know about. So it'll essentially be, coach will call them and say, can I use it today or tomorrow or whatever, you know, is it good to use that date? Once he knows when the dates are, and they'll say yes or no, and we'll just not exceed 7, and shouldn't be too hard to manage over there.
Thank you. All right, so do we have a motion to accept, approve action items A, B, C, and D?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Moose makes a motion, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Green. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion unanimous. Consent items, finance. Y'all want to take that resolution with you, Jason?
If you guys want to vote on today, then.
We just voted on it, it was part of
Here,
it.
I've got
It was
it
part of
ready
that.
for you.
Okay,
We just approved it.
I don't know if you guys want to or not, but a lot of boards have been taking a picture with it for our social media site. Would you guys be willing to do so?
Okay. Well, we can do it. You go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I have it stated and ready. Each member signs it. You're the first one.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Oh, sorry, I already had mine dated.
Oh, that-
Is this good with this?
Password for
No,
this
that's
is NC.
Yeah, okay, it was on the back of it, so.
My first item is payment of current invoices, so if you guys who are not signing that, want to look and see if you have any questions about that.
Fine. First,
For your
computer.
account.
I think someone asked the same question I asked you about.
You know
the
what
About the
CMA.
ZMM?
Yeah, could you clarify
When they
that?
upset it.
Sure, yeah, there were more payments than usual to ZMM this month, which is because they sent us their October and November invoices at the same time. And there are always, there's 2 invoices to them each month, one for the Richwood project and one for the Glade Creek project. So that's why there are so many individual listings for ZMM. And it just so happened that the ones for the Glade Creek side, I believe, were the same dollar amount in October and November. So that's why it looked like we were paying them more. Also, there was a check in here for city construction, and I had emailed you guys and gotten approval. 3 of 5 of you responded that we could go ahead and give them that check, because the month before, their money got held up for longer than normal, not because of us, but just the chain that it goes through. So I wanted them to be able to get their money as quick as possible. So I did already submit, give them that check. They picked it up from Sherry yesterday, day before yesterday.
Well, like Mr. Ferguson said, you know, it's went through all the channels.
Right.
It's just a matter of us approving it. It's not like we're not gonna pay them, so.
Right, right.
Mr. Angel. Chris. Go ahead.
So I think that was all. Did you have any other questions about invoices?
I just have one question, and just now came up. I looked at all of them, I didn't have a question on the invoice myself. On ZMM, we have a contract with them to build the schools and a fixed dollar amount. Then I guess when we employ them to do other projects, when you record these on current invoices, could you maybe just put per the contract, or
Or if it's something additional?
it's something else that we're using them for because we've contracted on something else?
Sure, yeah. I
Yeah,
can do that.
but you're keeping track of the fact that, from FEMA's not even paying for this part of it, yeah. But you're keeping contract, and we have a contract with them,
Right,
and and that payments go for that, and then if we do an MIP program or something like
Right.
that. yeah.
right. I think that normally it will show up like in your regular listing.
Okay.
You see how ZMM is by itself, and City is by itself, and SQP is by itself. But then if you have a whole big list of many things that were paid through the month, and ZMM is included in that, then that's probably gonna be where we're paying them for the sewer work
Okay,
or something
so if it's in,
else.
if it's in the general list of contract, that's something else without
Right.
contracted. If it's separate, then that's on the school project.
Right,
Okay,
right, but I'll
thank
try
you.
to catch those, because, yeah, you're right, we do pay ZMM sometimes for other things, so I'll try to catch those. And then, yeah, I had to walk in that small list this morning, because as we went and as we extended our board meeting, we had some more time to get some more checks in that would have been late if we hadn't gone ahead and processed them, so that's why we had to walk in a few this morning. Okay, also listed under finance were the MOUs for the community center and Smile West Virginia, which you guys already just approved, so we can skip those. Before I go to out-of-state travel, I just wanted to make you guys aware that I am going to be hopefully looking into putting out a request for proposals from our banks in the county to possibly change our, the bank that we do most of our business with, our checking account. That hasn't been done. I'm pretty sure that Kevin didn't even do it when he was here, so it's been, you know, over 20 years since we have looked at our banking services. And quite honestly, we're paying some fees that I think that we shouldn't have to pay. I think that some of the other banks would give us a better deal on some of the fees that we pay. So hopefully, I hope within the next month or so to get that out, and we have to send that to every bank who has a presence in the county. So I'll do that and then see what the responses are, and then I'll probably put together a committee of people to look at those and see what the best deal is we can get. And then hopefully, I don't know, there's not a good time really to do that. I mean, it's gonna be kind of difficult. We have a lot of stuff that's automatically going in and out of our account. So, and yeah, it's gonna be kind of a pain to change if we do change, but hopefully we could do that, you know, maybe at the beginning of the next fiscal year. We'll be ready by then. So I just wanted to let you know that we are looking at doing that. Next is out-of-state travel. Looks like a couple of trips to Virginia Tech for the bands. And then some student transfer requests.
When they do transfers, do they have to give us the reason that they want to do the transfer, or can they just have a blank check?
I think on the form there usually is stated a reason.
Okay. Do you review that before approved?
And it starts at the receiving school and then goes to the sending school to make sure that if the receiving school doesn't have room, then they would deny it at that level, especially in kindergarten well, up to 6th grade. We are bound by class size limits.
That's the only criteria, class size limit?
Pretty much.
Do we do checks on those students, whether or not they've been expelled? Probably at this age, that would.
Well, that's one of the first things. When a new student enrolls in school, in the packet, the parents have to sign a waiver that says that they have not been expelled, either from an in-county or in-state or out-of-state school. And then, because we wouldn't know that until we receive the records. And then when you receive the records, you would verify it. So there's kind of an initial honor system, and then a check when we get the records in.
Wouldn't you know it if they're an in-state student by WEBUS?
Not until you pull the records in, because if they're coming in from another county,
You can't check the records.
we can't see the records until they actually arrive. And that's a little bit concerning though, like when you're accepting transfer requests from out of county, it's the honor system. Because
But you can always, if that's a problem, you can always go back and,
revisit it
Right.
if they have misstated it. And a lot of times, we will informally call the school that is sending the student and say, tell me about this student. And you can get general information, like are they behind on credits, have they been expelled, but you can't get a lot of specifics.
No.
Especially with IEPs, if the student has an IEP, we want to make sure that we can meet those needs. And that's something that you can look at too.
student number 2 here, I mean, it says lives in the district, so why are we having to approve a transfer if they're going back to their district?
Well, I would assume they probably had been at Panther Creek. So if you're already at Panther Creek during this school year, we want to make sure we have room at SES for you.
Now that, if they're in homeschool or some other type of education, we do not transfer those if they come back in. I mean, it's just,
We just would pull them back into their
Accept them.
home school. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have one question on the travel requests. It looks like the Richwood Band, they're going to the same place it looks like, but the Richwood Band's leaving on Thursday at 8 a.m. and Nicholas is leaving Friday at 6:30 a.m. Is there a reason that they're going whole day at school or whatever?
They probably perform at different times.
Oh, okay.
I'd say it's what.
They're both coming back Sunday. I was just trying to figure out why, because by leaving that day, it gets them, you do miss an extra day at school. You will miss Thursdays and Friday versus the one that just missed Friday.
that's what I thought. Wasn't talked.
It's like an honors.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we're all good with Kristen. So do we have a motion to accept consent items, finance 1 and 2, the out-of-state travel request 1 and 2, and the student transfer request 1 and 2?
I make that motion.
Mr. Berry makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferguson. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion unanimous. Personnel.
Good morning. It's a little different saying good morning instead of good evening, isn't it? The personnel is as presented. I would like to thank Amanda Dietz. She is resigning due to retirement. I would like to thank her for her years of service. And also Kelly Tyler. She is resigning her position at CRE. And for the last few years, she's done a wonderful job at many different grade levels. So I'd like to thank them for their services. We have some long-term residencies. That's what the new term is for student teaching. So some of us who used to do student teaching, these are year-long residencies now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Do they stay with the same teacher during that year?
It depends on their certifications.
Yeah, depends on what they cover.
Mhm. And they're also eligible on the second part of their residencies to do some or some substitute teaching. I think 1 day a week.
Do we have a motion to accept the personnel agenda as presented?
I make the motion.
Mr. Green makes a motion. Second by?
Second.
Second by Mr. Berry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion unanimous. Before we do reports, Mr. Moose, did you sign that?
Yes, sir. It's-
Let's get a picture so these gentlemen can, I'm sure they want to get on the road.
I had to work 2 hours today, I'm tired.
I appreciate it, guys. This will make our process happier.
Then, we'll use one of your forms, and you guys all sign it again, so that we both have an original.
Okay.
You not gonna get in there?
No, that's just Brandon's County now.
One in?
It's for the board members.
Ready?
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it'll be good.
You're driving,
Old and shady.
old and shady.
Y'all be careful.
Mr. Booth, thank you.
Hey, Randy, you gonna go with you?
Well, be careful.
Brandon, give us that,
I'm not invited.
give us that link.
We only take people we like right now.
Okay. Reports, SESC, Mr. Ferguson.
Nothing to report this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Bright Horizons, Mr. Green.
We had a meeting in December, and everything's going well. They'd like to have more students, and if possible, it's just hard to get them transported because of the different lanes. They're doing very well. We've got a great staff and working hard.
Thank you, sir. Items for future agendas, matters of the board. Anybody have a future agenda item?
Awesome.
Yes, you want.
I think the thing I'm concerned about is, have we included into, all of these plans that we made, the equipment that has to be put into the schools, and, the playgrounds and so forth, but I think ZMM will be able to take care of that next time.
Yeah, what's in and what's out? That's a
Yeah.
good question.
Right.
How many of them are furnished and what?
Right. I know.
Well, like a Glade, we still have to put out another bid on the fields and stuff. So.
Yeah, at Glade, we proposed about $4 million would have to be used.
I'll try to get them to come to the February 3rd meeting, because we have a board meeting on the 27th, and then one the following week. And so that'll be a very short board meeting anyway. It'll be a good time to bring ZMM up and have them to go through this with us.
Okay. Well, then, that takes care of that.
Anything else? Future meeting dates, time may change if student hearings are added. Regular meeting Monday, January 27th, here at the board office starting at 4 o'clock. Regular meeting on Monday, February 3rd. Meeting starting at 4 o'clock here at the board office. And at this time, we need an executive session for personnel.
I'll move that we move into executive session to discuss personnel.
Okay, Mr. Ferguson makes a motion, executive session for personnel, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moose.